Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Women's Wrestling Talk. My name is TK Trinidad, and we are here for a special show with amazing guests, or amazing co-hosts, my bad. I'm gonna let everybody introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Katrina from In Cat We Trust. I'm a YouTuber and podcaster. I focus on a bunch of like geeky, nerdy things, but mostly wrestling because wrestling's amazing and women wrestling especially. So,
Miss Gabby.
Hi, everybody. I'm Gabby Loren. You may have remembered me or remember me now from WWE SmackDown Live After Show with AfterBuzz TV, and also formerly backstage reporter for Impact Wrestling and Wow Women of Wrestling on Access TV. And I'm so happy to be here with you guys all today. So looking forward to talking wrestling.
And Miss Marti Belle.
Hi, guys. I am Marti Belle, professional wrestler, formerly seen on NWA, Impact Wrestling, the Mae Young Classic, Shimmer, Shine, and a bunch of other really, really cool places.
I mean, like this whole lineup, I love it. Okay, so what we are discussing, so I want to give you guys a bit of a backstory for you guys who don't know. I say it like a million times, but I'm from Canada, and I want to do a show on the top 10 Canadian women wrestlers. And the reason being is I feel like Canadian wrestlers and female Canadian wrestlers in particular, they're like almost like hockey players. There's so many of them that is just like, wow, like Canadians are infiltrating and you guys don't realize it, but you know, it's a secret that we won't, talk about. So top 10 Canadian wrestlers, if you go to our website at www.talkpod.com, our blog post is there. Shout out to George at WWWT Ranking Dude. He does all our blog posts. So he put this together for us. So we're going to get into our very first person. So give me 1 second here.
By the way, I think we do realize that there are tons of wrestlers coming from Canada because so many of them are from Canada, like Rowdy Piper and Maurice, which is a newer one that we all know of. But there's so many. The list goes on and on and on.
It's like you never know, and then you're like, oh, they're from Canada. Like, by the way, so our in our 10th spot is going to be Addie Starr. So how do you guys feel about her? Do you think this is deserving of the position? Do you think people should check her out? What are you guys' feelings on her?
I definitely think people should check Addie out. I know that she was in the UK for a little bit. I'm pretty sure she's back either in Canada or the US. I'm not sure, but I know that she did go to the UK for a little bit. I remember Addie Starr from WSU and CZW days, and I know that she's like known for being hardcore. That picture you just showed is her having a Legos match, which if you've ever stepped on a Lego, you know how horrible that is. But I don't know. I'm going to have to disagree with her being in the top 10. I've got a couple other names that I think could have pushed her out of the top 10.
All right, we're going to get into those other names. Make sure you comment below with names that you feel that should be in the top 10. Again, you can go to www.talkpod.com to check it all out as we're discussing this. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm totally fine with her being in the top 10 because I think that it's not just what you do in the ring that stands out as a wrestler. It's also what you've done before, during, and after. And she had started training when she was 17. So she's been doing this for a really long time. She knew nothing about it and really put a lot of work into studying the craft before she actually got out there in the ring and started doing things. So I respect that with any wrestler and that's with any industry. If you study it and learn it and then get into it, I give you much more respect. So I think that she's great. I also like her grit and what, she does in the ring and the kind of intensity she gives off. So I'm totally cool with the top 10.
All right. Katrina?
Yeah, I'm okay with her being at top 10. I actually found out about her pretty recently. And the first match when Marty mentioned about the Legos, that's how I was introduced to her. So I thought it was cool anyway, because I as a mom, like Legos, unintentionally stepping on those are very painful. So to have that be an intentional thing, like, oh, I'm intentionally gonna have this match, it's like, oh, so you just about that life. And I know it doesn't seem like really like a crazy thing, but as I said, as a mom, it's kind of crazy sometimes to step on those type of things. And I do respect her grit. And like Gabby said, in regards to just learning, anybody who can just decide to do something that's something so different than what they're used to or in their comfort zone, and then work really hard to learn it is always like a plus in my book. So I'm good with her being number 10.
So, Marty, as far as being our resident wrestler on this panel, why? Like, we have Legos, we have
And
those
I'm
little
not saying that
pistons,
she's
but
not great. I think she's a great person. I think she's a great wrestler. And maybe I'm just a little bit biased because I have two other girls that I like. We'll talk about them later on. That I think I would have put in the list, and I I feel like I would have to, obviously, unless we're doing a top 12, because we're doing a top 12, I would definitely leave Addie in. But yeah, I've known Addie for a long time, probably at this point, like 8 or 9 years, and I think she's great. I just think some of the other names are, and it's all personal preference. I think personally, I would have included some of the other names, which just means that some of the other girls would have had to get bumped off. I think Addie's great, and like Kat said, she's a badass. Like, those Legos are no joke. So even just, and I know she's had a lot of matches too. Oh, I'm pretty sure that, getting a little bit out of wrestling. I know that she went to the UK, and I believe she was teaching there. So I think like you gotta look at what people are doing outside of the business as well, and I think that's definitely very commendable. Think she's a great wrestler. Definitely not a knock on her. I just think that my other two selections would have probably ended bumping her off.
So we did do an interview with Addie, so go and check it out. It's on our YouTube page. But my question was not necessarily her positioning, Marty. I was questioning like Legos. Like, why do wrestlers choose to do, like, it's already enough to do, I guess, all the normal stuff, like the regular wrestling stuff, and then you add Legos to it, or you add pins to it, or you add like a kendo stick to it. Like, why? And I know you don't speak for all wrestlers, but can you kind of give us a glimpse at why you want to put yourself in that position?
I think it's the wow factor. It's something that's obviously very memorable. She could have gone out there because I'm sure it was a hardcore match. I don't think she just, in the middle of a very technical match, she just pulled out a bag of Legos. It's probably a hardcore match, and I think it's just something different than maybe like doing tax. Like maybe they didn't want to do tax and they did Legos instead. And like Kat said, man, everybody can relate. I feel like everybody at one point in their life has stepped on a Lego. So I think it's definitely something different, something unique, and something that people still remember her by. I'd be very curious to ask her how she feels about being remembered for this kind of match. I think that'd be very interesting to know on her end, because we all, we all talk about it still to this day. So I'd be very curious to see how she feels about kind of being known as that still.
Yeah, that's crazy. Better her than me. So we're going to move into the 9th position. Angelina Love from ROH. I don't know. I feel like she should be higher on the list.
I agree.
Closer to number 1.
Yes.
On the list. What do you guys feel?
I would probably put her like 3. She's amazing, and I think all the title runs she had in TNA, as that was my introduction to her. She was always like really entertaining as like a viewer. Just like, even if I didn't necessarily always like the gimmick, I'm like, okay, but you got me watching you, and that's always like. As like when I was younger, I hated heels necessarily. I didn't like heel wrestlers. I always wanted to face to win. But as an adult, I appreciate heel type characters a lot more, because it's just like you bring more elements to your character on screen. So I love her. I would put her at probably 3 though. I think 9 is a little too low on the list for me. I feel like she's about a 3.
Gabby, Marty?
I as well would put her a lot higher. She's a 7-time women's knockout champion, 1-time tag champion, Ring of Honor champion. She's worked in the UK. She's worked in Shine, AAA, House of Hardcore. She was signed to Deep South and then OVW for WWE Developmental. And I definitely do think that she should have been ranked a lot higher. Having personally worked with her at Impact for a short while with the Beautiful People, I like Kat said, man, she's just so entertaining. She can cut a promo. She can wrestle. I definitely remember her being one of the girls when I first started wrestling. This is like the most random thing, but I loved watching her take someone's comeback, because I always thought she was so good at it. And I was always like, oh, this is something that I definitely want to work on myself. So I definitely would rank Angelina a lot higher. And she's still so active, and now she's in Ring of Honor. She's basically worked at every single promotion. The only place she hasn't worked is AEW at the moment, and that's only because she's under contract at Ring of Honor. So I definitely think that I would have ranked her a lot higher on the list as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, it's crazy too that she's 39 years old and she's still working as a woman in the business. Like we know that there are other, and a mom. We know there's other moms today, and women in general that are on the older side. I think like Mickie James might be one of them. Who are still actively working, but it still says a lot because that wasn't the thing back in the day, in the beginnings of wrestling or in general for women
even like
in
5
any
years
profession.
Ago.
Yeah, exactly. So women are just starting to have more longevity. And so, for that and for continuing to be able to dominate how she is, work with so many promotions, like you mentioned, Marty, I think that says a lot about, her likability, her skill, and, who she is backstage, because people, to have longevity in this business, you have to be likable in and out of the ring. So, I'll give her props for that too. I don't know if I would push her up because I haven't watched so much of her throughout the years, but I think she is deserving of being in the top 10.
Yeah, she was also on Women's Wrestling Talk, so check out the interviews for that. I'll put the links in the bio. But definitely, I definitely agree with everybody. She's so Canadian. She's like so lovely. Like I think she's doing well, and I definitely think she should be like 3 or 4. But we'll get into the what we think of the whole ranking in itself. This again is the top 10 Canadian women who are active. So let me be clear. One of my favorite. I think a lot of my favorites are Canadian. So we have Trish Stratus, who's on the show. She's absolutely divine. Gail Kim, also divine. So they're not active. So please don't blow us all up saying we missed 2 people. They're not active full time. So please don't do that. So that will make us go into our number 8 position, who is Chelsea Green. Wow, she's had quite an interesting up and down run. A lot of cases, injuries and stuff like that. Another absolutely divine person as far as personality. I think, you're sensing the trend, Canadian. But what do you guys think of her position, career, all that good stuff?
I'm a big fan of Chelsea Green. I met Chelsea at Impact a few years ago, and I feel like she's another person, similar to Angelina, obviously a lot younger in her career, but somebody like Angelina that's gotten a chance to work in so many different promotions, whether it was, when she toured Japan, working for Queens of Combat, Impact, Lucha Underground. I think her being reclusa there was really cool. And then just working for WWE, she's gotten to do so many cool things there. Unfortunately, her injuries kept getting her sidelines from, debuting, whether it was supposed to be on SmackDown or Raw. Everybody knows that one of my favorite wrestlers in the whole wide world is Mickie James. So watching the 2 of them interacting, knowing that it was going to lead to something, I was messaging her all the time, being like, girl, this is insane. This is ridiculous. This is so fun. And then unfortunately, she got hurt again before she eventually was released. But, I think she's a champion. She was a champion at Impact. And I don't think Chelsea's done anytime soon. So whether she's going to go back to Impact, whether she's going to end up in NWA, go to AEW, wherever it is, I definitely see Chelsea becoming a champion again sometime very soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like her work. I'm going to constantly bring this up, like outside of the ring too. She does a lot of work on character development, and she has a lot of creative ideas. And she recently did an interview where she talked about how many times she had gone to Vince McMahon with different character ideas for, who she wanted to be when she first came over to WWE. And I just like that she wanted to like push herself outside of the box and do things that are more daring. Like she wanted to work with Bray Wyatt. She wanted to work with the Iconics and be the Triconics. So all of that stuff is super interesting to me to see how much she's able to push and how fearless she is and all of the different directions she can go and how versatile she is. So I'm all about the creativity. I'm all about like putting in the work, in all angles to be as great as you need to be in this business and stand out. And I think she does that. And yes, it's very unfortunate that, she has had injuries and not able to, hold anything currently. But she's also a person that reinvents themselves. She's like, on a different level than the Bellas, but like the Bellas took Total Divas and they created an empire out of it. And like Chelsea Green's one of those people that's trying to do something, I think, along the lines, but in that infancy phase. Like she created a podcast recently. So I just think that there's a lot of future for her, not only in wrestling, but in entertainment in general.
Yeah, just to piggyback off what Marty and Gabby said, I like her. I do think she's pretty interesting. You mentioned about her wanting to work with Bray Wyatt, and that would have been amazing. I think I could have seen that being like a really amazing thing if they would have allowed that to happen. It is unfortunate that she had a lot of injuries, and I think for that reason, I wouldn't put her number 8 necessarily. Like if she had to be in top 10, she'll probably be 10. For the fact that because I didn't get to see as much as I would have liked to see of her because she was always injured. Because every time it was like the train was got to get pushed, and I'm like, yeah, it's coming, and then it was sidelined multiple times, and I'm like, oh well, this kind of sucks. It always sucks when a wrestler gets like a lot of injuries because it kind of derails whatever momentum they had, at least with like the audience or the viewers. So if she's in top 10, I would probably put her at 10 because the fact that I didn't get to see as much as I would have liked to see of her. But I think she's great. She's really, really great. And I hope like wherever she does next, she has all the success with it.
Yeah. So you guys might be wondering the criteria of this post and what we're basing off of. Like I said, WWT dude ranking guy, you know what I'm talking about. Actually you don't, but you know what I'm talking about. He's the one who put it together. It looks like the criteria he did is like currently active, social media following, storylines, where they've been working, stuff like that. So it looks like that's what he kind of based everything off of. Again, this is a personal thing, so please don't be blowing up our DMs. You can kind of suggest your opinion on who should be where, or if you miss somebody. But again, this is not the Bible, the end all be all. It's not that serious. And it's all Canadian wrestlers, so they're all nice people in general. So could all put everybody number 1, we would have done that. Definitely shout out to Chelsea Green. She was on our IG Live, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. I suggested she do a bikini line because she has a lot of bikini pictures. If you guys are not following her on social media, please do. Her podcast is absolutely hilarious. And she also has one with her fiance. So check that one out as well. And she is in talks with some other promotions. I think the sky's the limit for her. And, we'll see what happens. In the number 7 position, Alexia Nicole. What do you guys think of her? I didn't really hear too much. I haven't heard too much about her until this blog post and, where women's wrestling talks. So we should know pretty much every women's wrestler. So I'm kind of sad that I didn't get to know her until this post. So please let me know what you guys feel.
I think Alexia would be somebody that I think should be somebody great for you to interview because I do think that she's very interesting. She's a PI. And she talks a lot about that on her social media, which is very interesting. Like Gabby said, just seeing who people are outside of wrestling, I think that's very interesting. I've known her for a little while because we used to work at AIW together, but I don't think that she really wrestles that much outside of Canada. So it's hard for me I don't know where I would place her on the list as well, just because I'm not that familiar with her work outside of having seen her at AIW. I know that she does hold some titles, and I know same as with Chelsea, she had a shoulder injury that I think put her out, and she's finally gotten surgery for it during the pandemic. And that's another problem is a lot of these wrestlers, if they don't live in the U.S., the pandemic has kind of sidelined them. I believe that there are some shows that are starting to run in Canada, but they're not able to cross over. So she is definitely somebody that I don't know where I would rank her on this list. And only on the fact that I really can't talk to you that much about her wrestling. Great person, super adorable human, but I unfortunately don't know where I would rank her just based on if we're going on that criteria alone, I wouldn't know where to put her.
I would say the same. I don't really know much of her. And I would also agree that I didn't know who she was until I got the link for the article. So I had to kind of look her up. I did find out she's studying criminology, which is super awesome because that was where my first college degree was in, like law stuff and like criminal law and stuff. So I always find like anybody who's interested in that kind of thing outside of whatever it is that they do as a passion, it's always like a bonus to be like, oh yeah, you like this kind of stuff too. So that I thought was pretty interesting, but I actually haven't really seen, I don't really know much as far as her work, so I don't know where I would rank her either. But I do look forward to knowing more now that I know who she is. I'll definitely just look up matches, what I would normally do when I'm trying to find out more about wrestlers.
Is anyone familiar with where she lives? Like, where is she based out of?
I want to say Ontario, but that could be wrong. If I can find my phone, which I don't know where. Oh, here it is. I want to say Ontario, but I'm not entirely sure.
Could do a quick
Yeah,
Google search.
she's Toronto. She's from Toronto.
Okay, it's Toronto based.
So
Yeah.
I'm pretty positive she was doing some Impact stuff when I was there. But I didn't see too much of her either, so it was just a thing here or two. But I do like her work ethic in the ring. I think that she brings sort of like a fire to her wrestling, and not every wrestler. Some wrestlers are like going through the moves, you know what I mean, and they're not all 100% committed. Okay, obviously most of the people on this list are, but I think when you watch her, she is 100% in it. There's not like, if I was coaching her, Madison Rain and Gail, they're like the coaches on Impact right now for the women's division. So I feel like if I was in their position coaching these ladies, like one thing I wouldn't have anything to say about would be her commitment. I think, she definitely brings a level of, expertise with the way she shows up in the ring. And so I like her for that. But I'm not, again, also too familiar with her either, but I do like what I've seen.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, we are following them, and I definitely will reach out to her to do an interview. But yeah, hopefully the Canadian borders at this moment, as far as when we're recording this, are currently closed. We'll see when they open up. Canada's very strict. It's crazy up there in a good way, but safe way, I guess. So at least Cassie Spinelli, I believe. What do you guys feel about her?
I love her. I actually know her from Shimmer. So I think she's like super dope and like super badass. And I appreciate what she does bring to the ring. I believe she was on NWA as well. And then I know she knows like judo and Muay Thai. And I'm like, you can do all types of like, it's cool when you know how to wrestle, but you can do all types of other fighting skills. And you can probably like put a grown guy like on his behind. Yes, that's all for that like strong, powerful woman. And she's definitely like somebody who I'm just like, anytime she's wrestling, it's just always you can tell she's like really invested when she's wrestling, and she gives it her all. So I appreciate that. So I love her, and I'm okay with her position on the list as well.
I think she also put in a lot of work with the right people. She was trained by some of the best in the business, and on top of that, she has such a diverse background. The level of sports that she was involved in before she even got into wrestling. Apparently, she was involved in activities like ballet, gymnastics, Muay Thai, judo, hockey, like every sport basically you can think of, she was doing. So I think that also makes her a very experienced, diverse, and interesting to watch wrestler as well. So that puts her in the spot for sure.
Spinelli, I know from Shimmer as well, and I definitely agree with Kat. She always looks like she's having fun, and I think that's such an important thing, that not everybody, like you said, Gabby. There's people that it looks like they're just going through the motions, like they're phoning it in. They're just like, oh, I have to be here. This is my job. I have to do it. But they're not enjoying it. And I definitely think Spinelli enjoys every single moment that she is in the ring. I know that she's training down in Florida right now. So again, like she's continuing her training. She has already been trained by some of the best in the business, and she's still going to continue her training. And I think that's huge. You never stop learning. And that's another person that if you guys haven't had her on the podcast yet, you definitely should, because she's real interesting. I want to say that at one point she may have lived in South America. I think she did some reality show in South, like we've talked about this before, and she's really interesting. I think she's definitely somebody that you guys could get a really good interview out of, just because there's so much that people don't know about her outside. And I'm really glad that she's in the U.S. Training, because hopefully that'll lead to her being in more places. Did she do anything with Impact? I feel like she might. I want to look at my little notes here. I want to say that she may have done something with Impact. Maybe when they were in Canada. Yeah.
In 2017, I think.
Yeah, so she is like starting to kind of get into other companies, and hopefully her being in the US will help do that, because if you're not here, especially right now, I feel like it's just very difficult to be seen.
Yeah, she hails from Toronto, and I think I might have said she's in the 7th position, but she's actually in the 6th position, Cassie Spinelli. Yeah, it's I feel like hopefully Canada opens up in the next 3 to 4 months, hopefully sooner. And we're going to just see another influx of, wrestlers that we weren't able to see. Like I know, for instance, Trish couldn't come down for a lot of WWE events because of that. So I'm really hoping for that to happen because I just feel like we're just in such a great place for women wrestlers. So let's definitely looking forward to that. And I mean, she's like a very interesting person. So I agree with you. That takes us to our number 5 position, Allie, on AEW. What do you guys think?
I love her. I have known Allie, formerly known as Cherry Bomb, also known as the Bunny. Man, the Demon Slayer. She's got so many cool nicknames. I've known her, I want to say almost my full career. I've known her for at least 10 years at this point, I think. And I think she's a great person inside and outside of the ring. She's a great wrestler. Oh man, I wrote a list of like all the places she's worked. She was a tag champion with Kimberly. She was a Shine tag team champion. At one point, I want to say that her and Kim held the Shimmer and the Shine tag team championship. She worked at WSU. She was a champ there. She's worked for Ring of Honor. She's worked for AAA. She's been to Japan. I was with her at Impact. She was actually, fun fact, she was actually mine and she was Mia's first match at Impact when we debuted as the Dollhouse. So I remember like coming to the back and afterwards us being like, holy crap, the three of us just debuted on national television. Allie wasn't signed right away. Eventually she was, but it was just such a cool moment to have as three girls that came up together. She was the TNA champion the first time, actually just once. It was also because of me. I knocked her out and she landed on Madison Rayne and got the pin. Actually, she held the championship twice. And now she's at AEW. It's like, that was such a mouthful to say, but she's so great. And I like that she evolves. You know, she's gone from being an active competitor to pretending she didn't know how to wrestle to being a little ditz to reinventing herself as the Bunny. And I don't know. I think it's just something she's definitely. I feel like everything that she's been handed, and they've been like, here, do this. She's like, okay, cool. I'm this. Oh, okay, cool. Like, you know, like you said, Gabby, you have to keep reinventing yourself, and you have to keep, you know, finding a new way to be who you are. And I think she's killing it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that keeps you in the business longer. So I think she's definitely one of those people that, I mean, she's still young. She's in her early 30s. She's like my age, 33. Spoiler alert. But yeah, no, I think she's still young, but she's still able to reinvent herself. And wasn't she like basically one of the first females to sign with AEW? I feel like she started in the very beginning. And so the way I even was introduced to her, because I honestly, like, I was WWE for a very long time when I first started watching wrestling. So I wasn't really watching any of the indie stuff in the beginnings, even though most of the time indies are better than a lot of their shows. But basically, you know, when I first started hearing about AEW, I was seeing Allie everywhere. Like, she was the female poster child, I feel like, on all the things that I was seeing social media-wise. Everything was Allie. So I feel like she has a lot of traction. She has a big fan base. And, you know, she's definitely somebody to watch. I think she is a person that's going to be in this business for a very long time and has a lot of potential to grow even from where she is now.
I like her. I think she's pretty cool. I do like the whole bunny gimmick. I first was introduced to her through Shine. And then I do remember, like Gabby said, she was definitely like one of the first women I remember in AEW, probably more than like even Nyla Rose or
Penelope.
Yeah, I feel like she was the one I remember, and probably because of the bunny costume. And if you have something again that can make it stand out, or I can remember, even if something really tiny, that's always a plus in my book. So she's good, and I like what she does. And you know, as Gabby said, I do see her being around for a long time. And if you're able to kind of be versatile and be able to switch up as necessary, or you know, if I don't want to say camouflage, but just being versatile enough to be able to do what you need to do to either further your career or further storyline or just stand out in a group of a bunch of people. She's definitely somebody who does that. So I appreciate her, and I'm good with her number on the list as well.
Yeah. I'm so glad that she started, because if you guys watch AEW, not you guys, but people who are watching, if you guys watch AEW, she wasn't wrestling for a very long time. So I'm so glad that she started wrestling, because it's kind of like, you see people cross over from different promotions, and you have something like you said, Gabby, where people just watch WWE, or people watch just one particular one, or people just watch Impact. So you're not necessarily aware of, you know, where these wrestlers come from or what they're capable of until they actually do it. So I'm really glad that they kind of unleashed her, and she has pretty much doing amazing things, and it's only the beginning for her. So, you know, shout out to her. The great thing too, also shout out to Impact, because they and Gail Kim had said this a long time ago. They allowed, I'm sure you could speak to this too, Marti. They allowed women in particular, because that's what we watch. Well, that's what I watch. Kind of do what they want with characters. It's not the cookie cutter characters that we see in a lot of other promotions. And you know, the diversity and just the ability to do so many things. We can reference Allie and Chelsea Green. Like, they were able to do so many different things that it's memorable versus the, you know, I'm the hot girl who wrestles. Like, everybody's hot in their own way. So shout out to Impact for that, for sure.
Totally.
That brings us to our number 4 position. I've been trying to get this woman on for a couple of years, so hopefully this year will be the year. Lefisto. She is a veteran in the game. Her matches are amazing. I feel like maybe, I don't know if you have the inside beats, Marti, as far as why she hasn't been signed, or she even wants to be signed to a promotion. But how do you guys feel about this position?
I love her. She's amazing. She is so amazing. She is so badass, and she's definitely a veteran. Like, the amount of accolades she has under her name and the amount of matches she's done, they're such superb matches. I love her. I would probably put her 2, honestly, but or probably put her 2. But I love her, and you know, I wish she would be signed, but I don't want her to be signed. It's like that. You want more people to know who she is, but you don't want people to water her down either. And I feel like that might happen if she signs to a bigger promotion. She might get watered down for what makes her great. So I'm like, I would love that for more people to be introduced to her if they don't know who she is. But I also like what she's done, that I feel like she might not be able to do as much as she did if she was signed into a bigger promotion.
Also, can we acknowledge that most people probably weren't doing intergender wrestling back when she was? And so she was like paving the way before we got to where we got to in 2020, 2019, 2020, 2021. So we have to give her props for that, being able to, match up with these other men in the ring. So I think that, she's well deserving of a spot on the top 10.
I think especially a lot of people may have come to know who she was originally through CCW, through her becoming the first woman to hold the CCW Iron Man Championship, which she won from Kevin Steen. She's in the CCW Hall of Fame. And I know that she is known for, Queen of the Death Match and that kind of stuff, but she's also a great wrestler who doesn't always do death matches. I've had the opportunity to be in the ring with her at Shimmer, and she's just a great wrestler. She's a great locker room leader. She's a great coach. To answer your earlier question, TK, I think a lot of it might have been her past health problems. She's had a stroke. And I believe that she has a heart condition. And I do think like WWE is very, very careful about stuff like that. There's people that like Shotzi once upon a time wasn't signed because of a heart condition. Eventually, I'm assuming something happened to where it got regulated. But I know a lot of wrestlers who were, on the cusp of being signed to WWE. And once they found out that there was some sort of heart defect or, previous surgeries like that went up in smoke. I do think, Kat, to what you said, I could actually see her being like on NXT. I could see her feuding with like Mercedes, because I feel like Mercedes is somebody who has Mercedes is Mercedes. You are never going to change Mercedes. Mercedes will literally tell Vince, and she did. She told Vince no thank you because she was in Retribution and left to go back to NXT. So Mercedes is definitely somebody who, is like, nah, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. And I could definitely see Lefisto being the same way. Or even like at Impact. I could definitely see her at Impact as well. And I know it's what she wants. I know that she would love to be wrestling, full-time wrestling, for a bigger company. So I hope that, like I know NWA is doing the women's tournament. Ring of Honor is doing the women's tournament. I hope that she is able to land a spot on one of those shows because she's great. And I mean, she's literally wrestled all over the world. And I think it's about time that more people start having more eyes on her.
Wouldn't it be great if she wrestled ODB at Impact?
Oh my God. I love ODB. I'm so biased when it comes to ODB. So I definitely, that's why I could see her fitting in at like Impact or NXT. I don't know about like, I can't see her like having like, a 5-minute match on Raw or SmackDown with one of the girls there, but I could definitely see her wrestling Shotzi, killing it on NXT, are going to Impact. So we'll see. I do hope that this is a year where she's able to get just a bigger contract.
By the way, let's not forget Impact is a Canadian company. So
it is now.
For this, exactly right now, for this top 10 best female wrestlers out of Canada, shouting out love to Impact.
There it is, for sure. I mean, I agree. I definitely think Impact would be a great fit for her, but we'll see. Where the world is slowly opening up again, so we'll see what happens. That brings us to our number 3 position, Rosemary. We did an interview with her, and absolutely hilarious in a good way. So believable. So I don't know how you can stay in character that long and just kind of like live and breathe in and sit in it. So what do you guys feel?
I listened to that. I listened to that the other day. I was driving home, and it made me laugh because she's so creative. Actually, I have a jacket that she painted for me while I was at Impact that I got to wear on television once before I left, and then my name changed again, so I never got to wear it again. But she's so creative, and like she said, one of the questions you asked her is like, how is how are they keeping busy? She said being creative. Yeah. Shimmer Tag Team Champion with Sarah Del Rey. Let's just start there. Impact Women's Champion. I remember she did that Monsters Ball, Last Woman Standing. She's such a badass. And I just think she's so creative. So many of the ideas for Decay come from her mind. And I just think if she ever leaves Impact, I think she's definitely got a long, long future. She was my first ever Shimmer match. We joke about her being kind of like the gatekeeper at Shimmer because she's a lot of women's first main show matches, and we're like, you're the gauge. I was on Sparkle, and they liked me and they wanted me on the main roster, but I had to have a match with back then with her previous being Courtney Rush, and they liked it enough that it got me a permanent spot on the roster. So. And she always told me, she was like, yeah, I'm a lot of people's first matches. I'm like, yeah, dude, because you're amazing. And they know that you're good. And if you can't have a good match with Rush, then you're probably not going to have a good match with anybody. So definitely love her. Definitely will keep her right where she is on the list.
Gabby, Katrina?
Well, I like her. And like Marty said, she is creative. And the whole painting jackets, I have a friend who paints wrestling jackets too, so that would have probably been super amazing to see, because I like when I can see stuff come to life and like clothes and stuff. Like, yes, let me see all the visuals. So I think she's good. I like her in Impact, and I do think that she can have a match well with anybody. Like, it's one of those situations you put somebody in the ring and you're like, okay, well, the match should be good because this person's in the match as well. And there's not too many I can say off the top of my head that's like every time you have them in the ring, it's like, it's going to be like a guaranteed, because they can work kind of with anybody, like just being able to be reliable enough to work with whoever it is your opponent is. So she's amazing. Again, I would put her down only because I feel like Lefisto should be like 2 or 3, but outside of that's the only reason. It's just because I think Lefisto is so amazing that is the only reason why I would probably move her down a bit, but I still like that she's where she has on the position the less.
Yeah. I also agree with you guys totally on the creativity thing. She only gets better and better as the years go on. Like her costumes, everything that she brings to the table to, enhance her character is always getting better and leveling up. And you can just look at like her recent stuff from this year even and see how much more effort is being put into that look and the energy of the character. I also think it's so interesting how she studied with like Scott D'Amore when she first got into wrestling, and now she's at Impact. That's so cool that some of her first baby steps in wrestling were with the people she's now working with, and I just think that's great. And she put in the work. Also, she's one of those people that definitely put in her time, and it's always interesting to watch her and Havoc on Impact. I like them together; they're a great team. So yeah, I love her on her own, but I also love her teamed up. Not gonna lie, I think she does really well as a females tag team. So yeah, I definitely like her a lot. Her personality, her body.
I don't know.
And that's a jacket.
Yeah, that's the jacket. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so it's got a Dominican flag on one side, the American flag on the other. and I think it says in Spanish it says like dangerous knockout. And then there's a drawing of me. It's really hard to tell, but yeah,
Oh
she
my
drew me as
gosh.
well.
We
Yeah,
can
so
see
she's
it. It looks
amazing.
awesome.
She's
Yeah,
amazing.
that's
She was
talent.
just like, I think I was like looking for somebody to make me a jacket, and she was like, "Hey, dude, can I make you one?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And she's like, "Yeah, I've got some vests here. I'll play around with. I'll bring it to you next TV." And she did, and I love it. It's definitely one of my like treasured memories. I've got it in my closet. That's like one of the things I'll never get rid of.
Yeah, she
That's
actually
awesome.
also, I think it's either her and Allie, they have like a YouTube page, or it might be her YouTube page, but they have a whole YouTube page where it's like the alternate universe,
The
and it's just
multiverse.
like, yes, it's just
Yes.
crazy. I think it's a couple years old, but if you watch it, it's just like I can watch more of this. So
Yeah. Super entertaining. Super entertaining.
yeah, the creativity is like on a whole nother level, and I'm really glad that she's able to showcase that. You know, some places, again, you're not really able to showcase it, so I'm really glad that we can see a different version of it. That leads us to our number 2 spot, Natalya. So, quick story about Natalya. Was backstage for, I think, SmackDown, or I don't know, one of the WWE events in LA, and we were sitting at the table. And this is when I was on 123 360 with Sean. So we were sitting at the table, just minding our own business, keeping quiet, because you don't want to mingle too much. You just want to, I'm here, I'm just watching. And she comes up and she says hello, as if like, it was just so Canadian of her. Like, she just like, "Are you guys okay?" It's like I could have asked her for a steak and she might have gone and found a steak for me. It was very like, yeah, it's super amazing. And that was my one and only time meeting her. But it just is so, I love people who are in positions of, I don't know if the right word is power, but in the position where they don't need to do any of that stuff. And they're just so like, they're just human and kind and considerate and empathetic, and I love that type of stuff. Makes me more endearing to people like that. So it's like, if she asked me for a steak, I would get her a steak, even though, what I'm saying, I'm going on a tangent, but absolutely love her. So what do you guys think of her positioning in position 2?
I'm gonna piggyback off that. I met Natalya at WWE's Hall of Fame when we were working with AfterBuzz a few years ago in New Orleans, and she was just so fun. Like, she brought the fun, and she's funny. She's able to make jokes about TJ, and she doesn't care. Like, I love that about her. And to your point, TK, she has a really well-known family that she comes from. She's a third-generation wrestler. So yeah, she can come into the game being like all ego and I'm better than you, but I didn't have to do as much to get here. She is not like that at all, and I totally vibe with that. She still puts in just as much work. She isn't a bitch. So, like, props on just that. You got yourself 50% of the way just through being a nice person.
Right.
But yeah, no, I've watched her so many times over the years. I like her more for who she is, and even her personality that she brings, even more than her wrestling, to be honest. Like, I just like who she is, and she's a likable person. It's not that even when she's a heel, I guess I like her, I'm not like, there's no problem with her. So I don't know. I think that's more, she's rubbing me the right way instead in that arena.
It's so funny because I feel like everybody has like such a great, like, when I met Natty Story, I met her at the Classic, and same, like, she was just so friendly. She came home and like right away, like, we followed each other, and she'll comment, like, she doesn't need to do any of that. And yeah, she very well could have just been like, "Oh, I'm part of the Hart family, like, excuse me, I'm coming through." But she didn't. She busted her ass. She went to Japan. She wrestled at Shimmer. There's a picture of her at the Berwyn Eagles Club from when she first started out. She's done so much. I think that if when her and Beth were a tag team, I think if they would have had women's tag championships then, 100% they would have been a tag champ. So it's awesome to see her and Tamina be champs now. She's won. I believe that she was the first. I wrote something down. So she won the Divas Championship and she won the SmackDown Women's Championship. And I guess, like, basically I think she was the first to ever hold both. Not at the same time, but she was the first WWE superstar to hold women's superstar to hold both. And I just think about her longevity. How long has she been in WWE? She debuted in 2000 and has been with WWE since 07. So for 7 years, she busted her ass on the indies, made it to WWE, and here we are, 2021, and she's still kicking ass, still winning titles, and most importantly, still being a good, fun, silly person. And I think that just she didn't take herself too seriously. I've watched a couple episodes of Total Divas where she's on it, and she's just it's so endearing, and I love that about her. And I think she definitely belongs in that top 3 spots for me for sure.
Well, I haven't met her,
but when you do,
I've heard really good. I've always heard a few people who have met her say that she's really, really sweet. And I do like if you're coming for something that's like really known, like the wrestling families and the Hearts are a wrestling family. Like everybody was wrestling, and she's one of those. And just always have such a positive like outlook and always working. And I appreciate like even her winning the tag titles in WWE recently. I was actually like, you know what, about time, because she felt like she hasn't really done, like she was there, but it feels like she was more like locker room leader rather than they had her like winning things and being on the forefront of titles and stuff. So it was actually nice to see her and Tamina, because Tamina also is somebody who we really haven't seen get much push and shine like properly. So, and I know she got injured a few times as well. So it's just nice that she's finally getting some kind of push, and you know she does work. And I am friends with her husband on Facebook, and he talks about her very endearing as well, and that she's always like trying to train and help people. Even like when he's helping, she's doing the same. And I think that's like really awesome to be in something for that long, and you're not like bitter or anything, or you're not like jaded, and you're still really much kind of the way you were, even though you've been at one place for a really long time. So that's cool. And I do like, I'm okay with her being number 2, because she's, as I want to say, one of the people should know who, if nobody else, you should know who Natty is, like being her lineage and all. So
real quick, before we jump to the next one, to piggyback up what you just said, Kat, I think it's so, one thing that I've always been taught is leave the business better than you found it. And she, you know, she's made her millions. She can be sitting at home, you know, having fun with her cats, but she's training people. And she's always posting pictures or videos. And there's so many people that are going to train with her because she's got so much knowledge. And I love that she's very much just like, she loves wrestling so much that she's going to continue to train people and keep passing it down. And that to me is just like extra props to Natty for that.
Yeah. And meticulous, like based off of the Divas, how she trains people, very like, you know, she wants to make sure that you get all the elements in the base. So yeah, definitely shout out to Natty. I would personally put her at the number 1 spot because of the longevity and the legacy and everything else. But again, but however, this next person who is the number 1 spot, it's kind of hard because she is a friend of the show. She's been on the show quite a few times. She's done the show favors, meaning that behind the scenes, people would ask her about us, Women's Wrestling Talk, like, oh, like, and she would give them the okay. So I am forever like a fan of Taya Valkyrie, aka Frankie Monet, the whole family. Like, I mean, Johnny is a whole nother situation too. But she is in the number 1 spot. So and the debut for NXT, at first I wasn't feeling the name. Now I am all the way in, and that really speaks to a wrestler who can change the whole gimmick and like change your mind into liking it. Like, because I was like, Frankie Monet, like, what's wrong with Taya Valkyrie? She has like 3 or 4 different versions of it. She has like, what are you guys doing? And I was blaming, and I have no idea how it all came up, but I am buying into it. I absolutely love it. So she is in the number 1 spot. What do you guys think?
I love her. Sorry, Marty.
No, go ahead.
Well, I got to work with her in Impact, and she's one of my favorite people to work with because she is so genius at character development, and she is fun, and like to the point where I'm doing backstage interviews with her and I'm legit scared of her because that effect she has on people. She has the it factor in wrestling. So you know, when people like watch actors and they're like, you know, you have it, you should act, you should be on TV, you have the it factor. Like Taya has the it factor. And I knew when I was working with her in Impact that it was only a matter of time before she got to WWE or, you know, another promotion that was just going to blow her stuff out of the water because she is just so good. And anytime we did backstage work or, there was a package with her, it was one of the most entertaining things to watch on the show for that whole entire episode. And I love how she took Frankie Monet to WWE, because it's basically just reinventing Taya Valkyrie from Impact. And, it's the same thing, but she has a real dog instead of a stuffed animal. So I love it.
Oh, by the way, y'all, before I cut you off, so I had to know because Presley was everywhere. So I hit up Taya, I DM'd her. I was like, so is Presley getting a check? Because WWE is using Presley all over the place, and I feel like that's still airtime. And so Presley is not getting a check, y'all. So
it's too bad.
Just in case you're wondering. Just in case you're wondering, I found out that answer. I was able to share it. I know, right? So sorry, just wanted to let people know, just in case.
I was actually wondering that too, so I'm glad you clarified.
Asking the tough questions, asking what people really want to know. So it's so funny that I'm gonna give you my Taya Valkyrie story real quick. I've known of her for years, and we had been following each other on social media, never met in person. Literally never met in person one day in our lives. We had a bunch of mutual friends. I was in Mexico, and she was working with AAA again, and they were doing something at this like little venue in Mexico City. It was like bar shows, and it was like super casual. It was just like a bar in the middle of a ring in the middle of the bar. But it was very cool, and I obviously I wanted to take my friends, and my dream is to work in Mexico, so I had hit her up, and I was like, hey girl, I'm coming to the show, and she's like, cool, let me know when you're here. I missed her match, but when I got there, she was like, come, I want you to meet Conan. She takes me downstairs, and she's like, hey Conan, this is my friend Marti. She was just in the Mae Young Classic, and starts listing off all this stuff. She's like, yeah, she's a great wrestler. She's been on the Mae Young Classic. She speaks Spanish. She's Dominican. Just wanted you guys to meet. Like, no big deal. Super casual, to where like Conan was like, oh, cool, whatever. And we started talking a little bit more. It didn't lead to anything, but just that, I was like, she didn't have to do that. She literally could have been like, hey, girl, what's up? How you doing? Let's have a drink. Or kept it moving. And she made sure to go out of her way to introduce me to Conan, who was booking for AAA and booking for the show, and introduced me to him, and introduced me in such a way. And it was so casual, where it was like, oh, this is my friend. She was just on the Mae Young Classic. She just did this, this, and this, and this. Mm-hmm. Like, I was like, wow, like it was such an amazing thing. And I think she's an incredible performer. I think she moved down to Mexico because FCW told her no. And so she was like, okay, cool, I'm going to go to Mexico. I think she was only going to go for a couple of weeks. And then Resta Sol Pero Gallo was like, hey, you should join Perros del Mar, and you're not la güera loca. And she's like, okay, cool, I'm going to learn Spanish. I'm going to learn lucha. I'm going to make a career in Mexico, jump over to the U.S., kill it there. And I mean, man, like, she held the women's title. She held the Reina de Reinas title for 945 days. She's a 3-time Reina de Reinas champion, knockouts champion for 377 days. Like, dude, like, she's amazing. My 1 and 2, I keep flip-flopping. I literally keep switching the numbers. It's between her and Natalya. And, like, at this moment, I switched her back to number 1, because the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, hell yeah, she deserves to be
number 1. I know, you just convinced me. I was like, no, she's number 1. Pat?
I love her. I actually got to meet her very briefly. I was at an indie show, and John Marston was wrestling. So she was there, and I kind of like, oh, I know who she is. I got really excited because, she's Thai. So I said hi. She was just really, really nice. So it wasn't like anything like really like big, like life-changing, but she was just so sweet. And I love everything she's done in Impact. And I felt like she was going to WWE. And just a vibe I got. I was like, no, she's going. So when she signed, I was all for it. I do agree. I wasn't sure about the name, because I'm just like, but she has a lot of accolades under the name Taya already. Why do you need to change it? But WWE can be weird sometimes. I understand it. So I was like, I guess. But even when she made her debut, I was with it. I'm just like, you know what? You do what you was doing in Impact, and still like letting it known that even though it's a new promotion, you're still like kind of in charge in a way. So I love her, and I'm actually okay with her being number 1, because she's done so much.
Isn't it true that when you're at WWE, they own your name? So at that point, you kind of have to switch your name.
For the most part, yeah. That's why very few people are able to keep their names. Like, I'm surprised that there's some people that still, like Mia Yim, technically still Mia Yim. Even Chelsea. Yeah, Gail. There's a lot of people that have been able to keep their names, but I think for the most part, and so the problem is with that. At least when we were at Impact with our contracts, I decided that I didn't want to give them the rights to my name. So if they didn't have the rights to my name, that could also be a part of it. It could have very well been her being like, no, you don't own Taya, because then in the future, if she decides to go somewhere else or she wants to go back to Taya, she can't because they own it. So that could also be a very big reason. But dude, I feel like you could give it doesn't matter what name you give Taya, she's gonna be a star. You could literally give her symbols and she's gonna be like, cool, now I am a symbol. This is what I am. And all of a sudden I don't know, I just feel like she's just great. And I definitely I have convinced myself as well that she is definitely number one. She's
I love that.
So we all are convinced. We're all, agreeing that Taya is definitely number one. Or Frankie Monet, Taya.
Frankie, yes.
Is number one. So let's kind of, before we get out of here, as far as the rest of the list, who do you think we either have missed out or we missed the numbering, the order?
Candice LeRae. Right?
Candice is Candice is American. She's from California.
I don't think she is.
Candice?
I thought she was Manitoba.
Ooh, let's find out.
Yeah, Manitoba.
But according to Wikipedia, it says that she's American.
Yeah, I'm like 99% sure she's from California.
I see. If you look up Candice LeRae on Google, oh, you know what? Wikipedia says Riverside, but like wrestling on fandom, I'm seeing Canadian professional wrestler. That's confusing.
I want to say she's American only because she represented the U.S. in the Mae Young Classic. And they didn't go by where you live. They went by where you're from. Like I got to represent the Dominican Republic because of my parents. And I got to perform Korea because of her mom. So I want to say she's probably American, but that's interesting. Yeah, I've always considered her. I've always thought of her as an American. So I don't. And
it's also funny too because Aja Pereira, before she was signed to WWE, on her Wikipedia page, hopefully it's corrected, it said she was from Brazil. So Wikipedia is sometimes a little off.
It says both on her Wikipedia.
I think they said it's the reason why it was listed as Canadian was because of our indie promoter really early in her career put that, and so sometimes it gets confused. But she was born in California.
Interesting.
That's a good story. There we go. Clarity.
Okay.
Thanks.
Never mind. So Presley doesn't get paid, and Candice LeRae is not Canadian. So two things we have figured out for you.
She's so sweet that you just imagine, you're like, oh, she's sweet, she must be Canadian. That's why. I can see that. So I think the two names that were left off the list that should have 100% been on there are Taylor Wilde and Nicole Matthews. Taylor Wilde actually trained Alexia, and I know that if we're going based on activity, Taylor was retired for a minute, but she came back semi-recently, and she is currently signed to Impact. Let me see what notes I have on her, because I was never there the same time she was, but I know that she's a former Impact champion. I believe that she might have been in developmental for a minute too. I definitely just think
she was a fighter.
I believe she still might be. Yeah. I don't know where my notes are on her, but I do know for sure she held the Impact Championship, the Impact Women's Championship. And I just think she's great. I think she is one of the girls from that era of the Awesome Kong, the Gail Kim. I feel like in my mind, she will always be one of the original knockouts. So I definitely think that she would have held a spot, or she should hold a spot on the list. Nicole Matthews. Also, unfortunately, Nicole is banned from the U.S. at the moment.
That was the Mae Young stuff, right?
After the Classic, she was banned for working in the U.S. But I've worked with her at Shimmer. I know I want to say, she was at Shimmer with the Canadian Ninjas. She was champion with Portia Perez, who, if she wasn't retired, I definitely would have put her on this list as well. She's the first ever Canadian Shimmer champion. She wrestled for WrestleLicious, wrestled in Australia, Japan, 2018 Mae Young Classic, made it to the second round. So I definitely would have put Nicole Matthews on this list. And Nicole, she's so fun. She's such a good person, super creative as well. I believe she's getting a little more into writing. I really like Matthews, and I definitely would have put Matthews on this list.
So who would you have taken out if it's just the 10?
Do you want to hear what my list is? I don't want to say anybody to take out, but this is my list. Would have been number 1, Frankie Monet, Natty, Rosemary, Allie, Angelina Love, Chelsea Green, Lefisto, Nicole Matthews, and Taylor Wilde, and Cassie Spinelli at 10. I just based on my personal experience of having seen them wrestle and having been around them, I took into consideration people that have wrestled a lot outside of their home, because I think that's one thing too. Like, I could wrestle 1,000 matches and win 1,000 matches in my home promotion, but until you don't get out and start, wrestling other places, whether it be other cities, other promotions, other countries. So that's kind of what I took into consideration. So I definitely would have put Taylor. I would have put her higher on the list if it wasn't for how inactive she was for so long. But she's active now, and I think just her previous accolades make her be on my top 10. So I would unfortunately knock Alexia and Addie off, only because, and I think they're great wrestlers. I think they're great people. I think they've done a lot of really cool things. I just don't feel that they have wrestled that much outside of where they're from. And I know with Canada, it's difficult because of crossing the borders, and, Silesia Sparks is another one that would have been on the list, but she's been mainly inactive because of being caught at the border. So I do know that it's a lot tougher for people from other places to come wrestle here. And that's probably the only reasons why they haven't wrestled more here, but that would be my top 10.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody you feel like you should add, change the list up? What do you guys feel?
No, I feel like there are so many men from Canada, but not as many women from Canada. So I think this list is solid. And if Maurice was active and Gail Kim was active, I would stick them in there too. But they're not, so.
I mean, yeah, I kind of almost want to jump onto Marti's list. Like, I like Taylor Wilde was also on the show, so check out that interview right before I think if you watch it, I'm really trying to. She said she got signed to somewhere, but she wouldn't tell us where, and I really tried to get it out of her. But right before she signed to Impact, but she didn't make it public. So around that time, and then of course we were in the pandemic at the time as well. But really extensive career. Before she started firefighting, she's a mom as well. So I definitely include her in the list. And Nicole Matthews, she had a great showing at Mae Young. Just speaking as a Canadian living in America, just I guess an immigrant in general. If you guys follow, well, I won't get into all the politics, but becoming a citizen or even being able to work here is very difficult. And sometimes I can understand why people will be like, I'm just going to risk it, because the hoops to jump through and all that stuff. Sometimes you're just like, well, we're going to see what happens. So, I can understand it. I don't condone it, but I can understand it. So, but I like Marti's list. If I could change everything, I'm kind of really aligning with Marti, and I don't know. I mean, I know we didn't want to do inactive people, but I just throw Trish in there as well. Just
Trish, Gail. Yeah. I mean, Gail, it sucks to say that Gail isn't active, because even though she's not active in the ring, she's still helping produce. So. She's still such a big part of wrestling. And I feel like, man, like some of my best matches at Impact were with Gail, because Gail pushes you. Gail is not going to let you go out there and phone it in. You are going to have a good match with Gail. So, yeah, Gail would be like an asterisk. I would put her in there for sure, because while she may not be competing in the ring right now, she's still very active. If it wasn't for her guidance, a lot of the matches that we see on Impact, we wouldn't have. And I know her, and I know that she's going to the office and saying, girls aren't doing this. Like, they're doing this, and we're doing this. And I know she's championing for the girls. So I'm just gonna put a little asterisk with Gail. I think Gail we'll just sneak her in there.
100% agree with that, Marti.
Sorry, Liz. Kat?
I don't think I would add anybody, but if you're talking about inactive, I was a really big fan of Gail Kim, and like I love Trish Stratus, and I appreciated Trish's journey through WWE as becoming just eye candy and actually becoming one of the greatest women champions there of all time. But Gail Kim, I always loved and I was devastated when she left WWE. And then I had to watch her at Impact because I'm just like, I thought she was so solid in the ring. I thought she was really pretty, and it was good to see a woman of color shine that way in WWE before they kind of like messed it all up and she had to leave. It's, you know, WWE was not known for putting a lot of women of color on the map with their wrestling skills. So for her, for me, she was one of the few that I'm like, all right, like you finally got somebody who's not like a pretty blonde woman, and it's not like the typical aesthetic for WWE. So I was again devastated when she left. So I had to follow her along just so I can keep watching her because I thought she was always amazing. So I definitely would have probably put her in like my top 5. Including
sure.
like, non-active, she would have definitely probably been in my top 5 because she was. I always thought she was just an amazing wrestler and the things, and then the fact that she is still working still is like a testament to her.
Yeah, and she'll talk about that too. She's well aware that she went into wrestling at WWW at a time when that was not the thing. Like diversity was not happening. So I think that's so impressive. You know, like she fought adversity there, and you know, look where she's still working today, even if it's not in the ring. Like you said, Marty, she is still working.
It's crazy. This is well documented, so I'm not going to go into the whole story or tell her story, but how she left WWE was definitely on her own terms. So just if you Google it, she's talked about it plenty of times, but I just think it's so badass that you're just staying true to who you are, especially at that particular time. So definitely go and look it up. I'm not going to go and talk about it. And I don't know if we talked about it in her interview, but she was actually one of our, I think within the first 5 interviews of the creation of Women's Wrestling Weekly at the time, Women's Wrestling Talk Now. So definitely go and check out that interview because she had a lot to say. But other than that, where can everybody find you guys? We'll start with Kat. I feel like because everybody's like, so let's do Brady Bunch style. So Kat, where can everybody find you?
I am on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook. The name says it the way it's spelled because I couldn't keep the E on social media. The E was already taken, but it's in Kat We Trust. You can look me up on YouTube. I'm on there as well. And hopeful. I'm actually going to be doing my first wrestling show, doing interviews backstage for all women, Black. It's an indie show a friend of mine introduced me to, and she's doing her first like wrestling show. With all Black women, which I thought was freaking amazing.
Awesome.
In Jersey. So she asked me to do the interviews, and I was like, wait, what? Like me, like I'm so like not used to. It's one thing to do podcasting interviews, but it's a whole different level to kind of do that in person. And I know Jazz is going to be there, and I'm like hoping I can keep it together because I'm such a fan of her. So I'm hoping I don't like fangirl and like.
She is the biggest sweetheart. You're gonna love her.
I absolutely love her just as a Black woman. And what she's done for women wrestling as a Black woman is just, I love her. So I'm hoping I don't like freak out a little too much, but I'm just really grateful for the opportunity. So if anybody's in Jersey and at the show, you will probably see me there. So
amazing.
Nice.
Thank you.
Miss Gabby.
You guys can connect with me on Instagram and Twitter at Gabby Loren TV. That's GABBYLOREN TV. And keep it locked into Women's Wrestling Talk with TK.
Nice.
And you can find me, Marti Belle, Marti.Belle. Once I changed my handle for Impact, I couldn't get it back for Instagram. So on Instagram, it's marti.belle. On Twitter, it's just Marti Belle. I'm not very active on Twitter. I am very active on Instagram. I've got a Patreon with the same name, and you'll be seeing my face in a couple of really cool projects coming up over the next few months. So keep an eye out for those.
Nice. I feel like you caught me at the wrong time because it's like I want to do the whole interview question, but we'll wait. But thank you guys so much. My name is TK Trinidad. Make sure that you are following our website at www.talkpod.com. We have blog posts up there. We're going to do more stuff like this. So definitely comment in the comments below. Let us know how you feel about the list. Let us know if we're missing somebody, if you want to add somebody. Again, this is a personal thing, y'all. So don't be,
We're not being mean. We are not being mean. I feel like we're not being mean. This is all personal opinions.
Yes.
Which we're allowed to have.
Yes. Just put whatever you feel is the list. And then also let us know if there's another list that you want us to create. Like, best female who has intergender matches. I don't know. Just let us know and we'll discuss it. I know. That was like one random idea.
I've got a few that
Next
came to
month one.
mind right away. I was like, ooh, who's the best intergender wrestler? I've got a bunch already. So
I do too.
So wait, what month are we in? We're in
Let's
June
go.
still, so maybe July. It's like I don't know. I thought it was Wednesday, literally a couple hours ago. So you guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you follow all the ladies if you are not, but you should. Make sure you follow all the ladies. We have all amazing projects. Women's Wrestling Talk is expanding. There's some great news on the horizon that I've been keeping to myself for weeks. It's been really, really hard, but there's some great news on the horizon, but definitely more content like this, definitely more interviews. We also have our pet show that you should check out. We're going to be doing watch-alongs. So there's so much other stuff, and there's so many women wrestlers around. I know you guys think that, there's not that many. There's a lot. We've been around for 4 or 5 years, and we've repeated people maybe 2 or 3 times. Like they've come on 2 or 3 times, but it hasn't been, that's not the case for every interview. So definitely check us out. Check out our old interviews. Other than that, thank you guys so much for joining. Till next time. Ciao, guys.
Bye, guys.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.